Every terrifying planet that probably has aliens explained. K2-18b. In 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope did something nobody expected. It pointed its instruments at a planet 124 light-years away, and it found chemicals that shouldn't be there. Floating in the atmosphere of K2-18b were methane and carbon dioxide. That was already a first. No one had ever detected carbon-based molecules on a planet sitting inside its star's habitable zone. But that wasn't the big story. Buried in the data was a weaker, stranger signal, a chemical called dimethyl sulfide, DMS. You've actually smelled this stuff before. That salty, seaweed-laced breeze you get at the beach? That's DMS. And here's why it matters. As far as scientists know, there is only one way this chemical gets into an atmosphere: life. On Earth, tiny ocean creatures called phytoplankton produce it just by existing. No life, no DMS. Simple as that. In 2025, a follow-up study made things even more interesting. A different instrument on the telescope picked up traces of a related chemical called dimethyl disulfide. The signal got stronger, but it still hasn't crossed the gold standard of scientific proof. And a separate team from the University of Chicago pushed back hard, arguing the evidence wasn't strong enough. So the debate is far from over. What we do know is this: K2-18b is 8.6 times heavier than Earth, about 2.6 times wider. Scientists believe it could be a Hycean world. That means a massive hydrogen atmosphere sitting on top of a global ocean. No land, just water everywhere. If the DMS is real and biological, K2-18b becomes the strongest hint yet that we are not alone. That's a lot of ifs, but even the ifs are terrifying. TRAPPIST-1e. Imagine a solar system so small that every single planet in it could fit inside the orbit of Mercury. That's TRAPPIST-1. 7 Earth-sized worlds packed together around a tiny red dwarf star just 39 light-years away. It's like a miniature version of our solar system squeezed into a space the size of a closet. And out of all 7 planets, one stands out. TRAPPIST-1. It sits right in the middle of the habitable zone. The sweet spot. Not too hot. Not too cold. It's slightly smaller than Earth, about 92% of our planet's width. Its mass is about 69% of Earth's, and it gets roughly the same amount of light from its star that we get from the sun. That's a huge deal. But here's where it gets weird. A year on TRAPPIST-1e lasts just 6.1 days. That means if you lived there, you'd celebrate your birthday every week. The planet is so close to its star that it's almost certainly tidally locked. One side faces the star forever. Permanent day. The other side never sees light. Permanent night. In 2025, scientists pointed the James Webb Space Telescope directly at TRAPPIST-1e. The results were frustrating. They found tentative hints of methane in the atmosphere, but they couldn't confirm whether the planet even has an atmosphere at all. The star keeps getting in the way. Its flares and star spots create noise that's hard to separate from actual planetary signals. One researcher put it bluntly: if it has an atmosphere, it's habitable. That's the whole game right there. One thin layer of gas is the difference between a living world and a dead rock, and we still don't know which one it is. LHS-1140b. Picture a planet completely covered in ice. White everywhere. Frozen solid from pole to pole. Now picture one spot on that planet where the ice melts. A single circular ocean sitting right where the star shines down. From space, it would look like a giant eyeball staring back at you. That's what scientists think LHS-1140b might actually look like. It sits 48 light-years away in the constellation Cetus. And in 2024, the James Webb Space Telescope gave us our first real look at it. The data ruled out something important. LHS-1140b is probably not a mini Neptune. It's not a small gas giant wrapped in a thick hydrogen blanket. Instead, it appears to be a super-Earth, rocky, 1.7 times the size of our planet, about 5.6 times heavier, and it sits comfortably inside its star's habitable zone. The star itself is a calm red dwarf. That matters more than you'd think. Most red dwarfs are violent. They throw out massive flares that can strip a planet's atmosphere clean off. But LHS-1140 is quiet, stable, almost boring. And that's exactly what a planet needs to keep its air. Scientists now believe there are 2 possible versions of this world. Either it's a snowball planet, frozen everywhere like Jupiter's moon Europa, or it's the eyeball, a frozen world with one warm ocean right in the center of the dayside. The team says they need a few more years of observations to confirm if there's actually an atmosphere, and maybe a few more after that to detect carbon dioxide. But right now, LHS-1140b might be our single best chance at finding a habitable world. Not the most famous, but possibly the most promising. Proxima Centauri b. This one hits different because it's right next door. Proxima Centauri b orbits the closest star to our Sun, just 4.2 light-years away. In space terms, that's basically across the street. The planet was discovered in 2016 and it checked a lot of boxes. It's about 1.17 times the mass of Earth. It sits inside its star's habitable zone, and computer models show it could sustain huge areas of liquid water on its surface. Sounds perfect, but there's a massive problem. The star, Proxima Centauri, is a red dwarf, and not a calm one. This thing throws tantrums. It blasts out ultraviolet radiation hundreds of times stronger than what Earth gets from the sun. These flares don't just happen once in a while. They're constant, and they're brutal. That radiation is strong enough to strip away not just light gases like hydrogen. Over time, it can rip away heavier stuff too. Oxygen, nitrogen, the building blocks of a breathable atmosphere, gone. NASA studies suggest that an Earth-like atmosphere might not survive Proxima b's orbit at all. The planet also orbits incredibly fast. A full year takes just 11.2 days. It's almost certainly tidally locked, one side baking in permanent starlight, the other frozen in endless darkness. So here's the cruel twist. The closest potentially habitable planet to Earth might also be the most uninhabitable. It's close enough that future technology could actually get a probe there within a human lifetime. But when that probe arrives, it might find nothing but a scorched, airless rock. The universe has a dark sense of humor, Kepler 452b. When NASA announced this planet in 2015, they called it Earth's older cousin. And honestly, the nickname fits. Kepler 452b orbits a sun-like star at almost the exact same distance that Earth orbits our sun. Its year lasts 385 days, just 20 days longer than ours. The star is the same type as our sun, same temperature, same class. It even receives only 10% more energy than Earth does. On paper, this planet is the closest thing to home we've ever found. But there's a twist. Everything here is bigger and older. Kepler 452b is about 60% wider than Earth, roughly 5 times heavier. If you stood on its surface, you'd feel twice your normal weight. And the star? It's 6 billion years old. That's 1.5 billion years older than our sun. As stars age, they get brighter and hotter, which means Kepler 452b is slowly being cooked. Scientists believe the planet might already be entering a runaway greenhouse effect, the same thing that turned Venus from a possibly habitable world into a 900-degree hellscape. Any oceans that once existed could be boiling away right now. SETI has already pointed the Allen telescope array at this planet. They scanned over 2 billion frequency bands. No signals, no transmissions, nothing. Kepler 452b might be what Earth looks like in a billion years. A warning from the future sitting 1,800 light-years away. Kepler 186f. In 2014, NASA made history. They found the first Earth-sized planet sitting inside the habitable zone of another star. Kepler 186f, just 10% larger than Earth. Not 40% bigger, not double the size. Almost the same. That had never happened before. The planet orbits a red dwarf star about 500 light-years away in the constellation Cygnus. It completes one orbit every 130 days, but it only receives about 1/3 the energy that Earth gets from the sun. So picture a world stuck in a permanent dim sunset. The light reaching the surface wouldn't be bright yellow like ours. It would be deep red, almost orange. And that changes everything about what life could look like there. On Earth, plants are green because they absorb red and blue light. But on Kepler 186f, the star pumps out mostly infrared and red wavelength light. If plants evolved here, they'd need to absorb different wavelengths to survive. Scientists think vegetation on this world would be dark red, maybe even black. An entire forest that looks like it's been dipped in shadow. We don't know if the planet has an atmosphere. We don't know its mass. We don't know if it has water. But what we do know is that for the first time, we found a world our size in the right place. That alone changed the entire search for life. It proved that planets like Earth aren't just theoretical. They're real. Kepler 62f. This planet is old. Really old. Its star is 7 billion years old. That's 2.5 billion years older than our sun. If life ever started here, it had a massive head start on us. Kepler 62f sits about 1,200 light-years away in the constellation Lyra. It's 40% larger than Earth, and it orbits at the outer edge of its star's habitable zone. A year lasts 267 days, not far off from ours. But there's a catch. The planet gets less energy from its star than we get from the sun. Without help, the surface temperature would be around -38 degrees. That's colder than Antarctica. The entire planet would be a frozen wasteland. But scientists ran simulations and found something interesting. If Kepler 62f has a thick atmosphere loaded with carbon dioxide, things change fast. The greenhouse effect could warm the surface enough for liquid water, not just a little water either. Models suggest this could be a full-blown ocean world, water everywhere. No continents, no dry land, just a planet-wide sea. There's another detail that makes Kepler 62f special. It orbits far enough from its star that it probably isn't tidally locked. It could actually have a day-night cycle, seasons. Weather. In 2015, scientists ranked it as one of the 3 most likely habitable planets ever found. A frozen world that might be hiding a warm ocean underneath. That's the kind of secret worth crossing 1,200 light-years to uncover. Gliese 667 cc. Most planets orbit one star. This one orbits inside a triple star system. 3 suns. Gliese 667 cc sits just 23.6 light-years away in the constellation Scorpius. It orbits a red dwarf called Gliese 667c, but that red dwarf has 2 bigger companion stars, Gliese 667a and b, circling each other about 230 astronomical units away. From the surface of this planet, you'd see 3 stars in your sky. The planet itself is a super-Earth, about 3.8 times the mass of our planet. A year lasts just 28 days, and its Earth Similarity Index sits at 0.85. That's one of the highest scores ever recorded for any exoplanet. But living here would feel nothing like home. The gravity would be roughly 60% stronger than Earth's. A person weighing 165 pounds would feel like they weigh 265. The planet is almost certainly tidally locked, one half roasting in eternal daylight, the other half frozen in permanent darkness. And there's a brutal problem hiding beneath the surface. Studies show the planet gets hit with intense tidal energy from its star, enough heat to slowly melt the mantle over time. The surface could be partially or completely covered in lava. So the planet with one of the highest habitability scores might also be a volcanic nightmare. 3 suns in the sky, lava under your feet, and still somehow a chance at life. The universe doesn't play fair. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more terrifying space mysteries every week.